We're going to start in 1 minute. Don't forget there's 50-50 draw at the back. There's some free books over on the table over here, except for the ones that are marked. What are they marked? Table copy only. So other than those, the other ones, you can help yourself, or if you want to make a donation, that's fine too. Be warned, some of them are quite old, so they may be out of date. Some of the information won't be as accurate. But if you think there's something you can, that'll help you. Oh, there we go. We'll give that a try. This is our agenda for this evening. Same as most of the other times. I want to welcome everyone for coming out tonight. First meeting of the new year, 2020. Hard to believe it's a new decade as well as a new year. We have a few announcements and reports. We'll be doing our Breaking Down Brick Walls program. We'll take a quick break in the middle of it, and then maybe the odd announcement, our 50-50 draw, and we'll adjourn. Depending on how fast we go through everything tonight, we can always adjourn to the office upstairs and do some research at the same time if you're interested. Okay, is there anyone here that's here for the first time? What we like to do is we'll have you stand up and yell out a few names that you're researching. And it's free advertising for your research. Maybe you'll find a cousin here. So,
right now?
Sure, we'll start with you.
I'm Sherry Barber, and I'm looking for Purdy's and Liddles, Liddle, and guns. Do you want?
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm Denise Drinkle, and I'm looking for Drinkles and Waters.
Drinkles and Watsons, was it?
Waters.
Waters. Okay, Drinkles and Waters. Thank you.
I'm Rita Hartley, a long-time member of this church, so I was just saying perhaps we can be of some influence there with the lines. I'm not sure. I'll try. My single name is Cann, C-A-N-N, and our farm is four-generation farm on the middle road of Bowmanville, and I've written that down. The other side of my family has been researched and over-researched, but that's my single name, and I'd like to do that one.
And then what was the name again?
C-A-N-N, Cann.
C-A-N? Cann. Okay,
Cann.
not Cannon, but Cann.
Cann.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this side? I wasn't looking. Okay, well, thank you very much. And if you want, John at the back there. Hi, John. There's a sheet if you want to sign in. You're welcome to sign in and put your names of research, of names of interest down that you're researching, and we'll try and keep an eye open for you. If someone comes along, we can give them switch emails back and forth. Okay, as you can see, our meetings are open to the public. Everyone is welcome, and we'll get started. Like most organizations, we always need volunteers. We do need a secretary or a note taker or whatever you want to call it for taking our council minutes. At each meeting, we meet once a month on last Tuesday night of the month. So if you'd be interested in doing something like that, we'd love to have you come out. Helps if you can type, because it's best to type them up and then we just email them out to everyone. And that reminds me, I did the last bunch and I haven't sent them out yet. Oops. And we also are looking for members at large. Those are people that are interested in getting an idea of how the group runs and want to come out and give us ideas and share everything back and forth. And that would come out to the executive meetings as well. Again, last Tuesday night of every month. We don't meet in the summer though, or December, so there's only 9 meetings a month. Yeah. It seems like 9 meetings a month. Sometimes. I forgot to mention about the open office and the DNA meeting, and that adds up to 9. Okay. Registration is now open for the OTS 2020 conference, being held in the Hamilton Convention Center, 5th of June to the 7th of June. Nancy put a few tidbits on here about it. The theme is Vision 2020, finding the past, moving into the future. Give you a little idea of some of the prices and things. OGS members, $145 for the whole weekend, or you can get Saturday or Sunday only. Non-OGS members, $170 and $120 and $120. And for students, there is a reduced price too. What do we got? Oh, that's the early bird price till March 31st. Then we have the regular price, so it will go up after March 31st. At the door, it jumps a little bit again. And then there are some Friday workshops, early bird pricing and regular pricing, and at the door, if you can get in at the door, because quite often a lot of these workshops are all filled before then, depending on what the topic is. There, you can see it on all this information and the different speakers' names and things like that on the website. And hopefully she's got it on here somewhere. So there's the hotel where we're going. There's a group rate, $169 to $209 Canadian per night. And last day to book, May the 4th, 2020, to get the discount. There's also other places that you get some discounts on as well. And I do not see. Oh well, just go to the OGS website, ogs.on.ca, and there will be a link to the conference on there. You can also subscribe to the Ontario Ancestors e-weekly update, which will keep us up to date on various things going on in the genealogy world. You just have to fill in the form and you get it free. It just comes out once a week or so. And it's a variety of things in it. It even mentions we submit our notices of our meeting in it. Some of the other branches will submit their notices. Tells you different things that's going on in the genealogical world. And probably next week's issue is going to tell you a lot about Ancestry and what they're doing to RootsWeb. Because there was a notice just came out on that today on one of my mailing lists. Apparently Ancestry is not going to be running the RootsWeb mailing lists anymore. It will be archived, so you will still be able to check out all the old messages, but the new messages, you won't be able to post any new ones. And this will take place, and I can't remember if it was the start of March or the end of March, but it's March.
So if you want to leave a message, now's the time.
Now's the time. Leave it there for posterity, because
Jump on it.
otherwise you're going to be in trouble. Now, what they don't say, and I'm not sure how it's set up, is whether they can still reach you if your email address is going to show on that page or not. Something we'll have to check, because if they can't find your email address, it's maybe a waste of time. There's an OGS webinar coming up for February. The topic will be DNA databases. What are they? How do they work? Who runs them? What's the privacy and terms of service? And how to use them in your research. So that'll be at 7 p.m., February the 6th, which most likely is a Tuesday, isn't it? Or is it Tuesday or Thursday?
It's a Thursday.
Is it Thursday? That one? Good. Because half the time they run them on Tuesdays and we're having the meeting that night. So we will be actually able to watch this one. So this is what's up and coming if you're interested in DNA. And if you're an OGS member, you can go back into the previous ones that have been played earlier. At least for a full year anyways. And I don't think B is here yet, so we're going to skip this one. And Sheila, are we in the black or the red?
In the black.
In the black, that's good.
Just have a little report.
Has your cat been into the money again?
I have a black cat.
That's from Nancy.
Two black cats.
Okay, so as of this morning, our balance of our current account is $2,574.63. The withdrawals in, that would be December, was $460.60, and deposits $11.50. But still good.
Still, well, there should be a big check coming from OGS for this month anyways.
Yeah, in February.
Yeah, so this is the time of year where we do get a little bit of income coming in. Everybody joins up for the year. Thank you, Sheila. Okay, now we're on to our main presentation, breaking down brick walls. We didn't get too many submitted, so if anyone brought any tonight, we'll go through them as well. We'll start with okay, well, Ned's put a few tips up on the first few slides, just to give us some ideas, but if you hit a brick wall, first thing to do, if it's recent in time, ask your relatives. See what they know about the person you're interested in or what you need to solve. Ask other genealogists. Sometimes they've encountered a similar problem and might be able to help you as well. Check your sources. Make sure you're on the right track and that you've documented everything so that you know you're working with the correct person or people or family. And I guess that ties in with check your research and your conclusions that you made with all the information you got. That's one thing that sometimes you can be led down the garden path by having one little bit of wrong information. Organize your research. That means all the piles I have on my desk at home are a bad idea. I should have them all in nice neat folders or something. But it does help to use a computer program as well, because that does definitely helps you keep all your dates and everything in order. Check for spelling variations. As you know, earlier times, they didn't care too much about how things were spelled. They just kind of sounded it out, and if you're lucky, they got it close. Check out research guides. That is good advice as well, because especially if you're working in a different area that you're not used to, somebody else probably knows the area much better, and if they've written down instructions to find some of the harder to locate resources, it's well worth checking out their guides. And always write it down and source it. Make sure you can get back to it again if you need to. Get a DNA test. Well, that can really help people if you think there is something wrong with the records, or you're just not sure if that's the right person or not. I'm actually using that right now in Cumberland, England, trying to line up different descendants of this one particular family, and luckily several of them seem to have taken autosomal DNA tests. So I know they must connect in somehow, so my research on that family is probably fairly correct on those lines, because they do match. Why did they lie? Your guess is as good as mine. Somebody wanted to be older or younger than they wanted to appear. Sold, if they wanted to get into the army in the First World War or something. Kids added a couple years to their age, or somebody worked it off their age.
Or they could be embellishing their ancestors, whether they're royalty or pirates or something like that, when they just want to tell their kids interesting stuff.
That's right. You don't want a plain old farmer for an ancestor or a neighbor, do you? No, a pirate sounds good. I like that one. I haven't used that one. I'm going to borrow it. Yeah, a pirate sounds good. Branch out from your line. Sometimes you have to work down on the other lines to be able to work back up. If you're stuck on your line, try the brothers, try the sisters. And sometimes you can find records for them that will take you that one step back and improve the next generation back. And of course, attend webinars, conferences, and they should have said Durham Region Ranch OGS meetings too. That's always a good one. But you can get a lot of friendly, helpful advice at these things. There's a lot of connecting there. You can make a lot of connections there. And in fact, at a lot of them, we used to put up all our surnames on the wall when you got there, and you'd leave a message, I'm in room such and such, I'm looking for John Smith from so-and-so. And sometimes you'd actually connect up with cousins right there at the conference. So a lot of interaction at some of these. And then when all else fails, hire a professional. Especially if it's in an area you can't readily get to. That's when it becomes especially worth it, unless you can afford to go over to England 4 or 5 times a year to check on a census record or something. Here's our brick wall number 1. Nathaniel Richardson, born 1843 in Yorkshire, died 1911 in Oxdrift, Ontario. He and his family came to Canada in 1871. I keep forgetting I can look down here and read it here. And settled in the Pickering area. In 1897, a bunch of families moved from Kinsale to Oxdrift, Eaton Township, Canora district. They became the settlers and possibly even the founders of Oxdrift. Nathaniel died in 1911, and he's buried in the Oxdrift Cemetery. It was established in 1912, and he is the oldest burial in this location according to the cemetery stones. Possibly this was his land, but our submitter is not 100% sure. Now, the abstract index books for land records are available on onland.ca, but they're not laid out in a regular system for that area. They're laid out in a parcel system, which is the newer setup, I believe, and not in lot and concession. So there's actually 516 results, and that's not pages, that's just results to scan through all the pages under that result. So we're wondering if anyone knows another way to find out exactly where Nathaniel settled. Now, there's an example of the Canora, which Eaton Township, I think it was Eaton Township, was part of. And you can see it's all listed as parcels, parcel. If you go into the other ones, they come up lot and concession. Why they've changed this and gotten away from the other, I know they're going towards, I guess, parcels. Are they? You would know more about this than I would even, but it's the parcel system is the new system, right?
Sort of depends.
Certainly, yeah.
There was probably a plan put on the area, and then it was changed from schools. So you look back before, and what was that site you gave me? I should know it off the top of my head. Yes.
On land.
On land.
And that's
Yeah.
what this page is off of.
Yeah, but make sure you go into, look for parent, there's parent and child records. So in terms of, like, the original parcel was this, but then the new parcel is this. So
But the thing is, the old parcels aren't there, or the old lot and concessions aren't there. This is what you get right here for
So
Canora.
sometimes it's just simply plow through. I was looking for one in Raglan, and fortunately it wasn't enormous, but it was bad enough. And I just had to plow through, but you sort of guess, oh, this is here and there, and then so it's not a close one, and you're guessing it's done in a sequence, so you just sort of guess and try.
So you're saying we're probably going to have to go through the 517 parcels.
But no, probably not. Let's start at number 1, see where, have the map, and see
But
where
the trouble
that-
is there is no map. That's our big thing.
But there
couldn't
should be
find where to get a map with the parcel numbers in it.
Question, what kind of dates?
Well, she's looking 1870s, I think, was on her.
So what about the
Or
census?
1897, was it when they moved there?
I thought it was
That's
1912.
that's pretty early for...
1912?
He died in 1911, but they moved in 1897. Yeah, they moved up there in 1897. They're thought to be the first ones there.
Was this an agricultural area or not?
I honestly don't know.
I'm guessing that.
It's way up north. I'm guessing there were rock farmers like my ancestors.
I'm guessing maybe there's a prior set of records she hasn't found.
Maybe there wasn't even lots and concessions.
Yes.
But the thing is, she knows the lot and concession the cemetery's on. So there must have been.
So
Because that is,
what about the census?
it's not there, sorry. There, concession 1, lot 3. So it must have started out lot and concession, they've changed it to parcel, but somewhere we need a map showing what parcels are covering what lots and concessions land, if it's possible. I don't
If it
know.
was a local one, like, and I have access to certain things, or even just going to the registry office. If you know the cemetery's there, look up the cemetery, and when you have that map open, sometimes it shows adjoining pieces.
It might, yes.
And I've done that for,
The thing is, she's gonna have to drive up to Canora then to do it.
no. Like, I know I might even have access to it through my real estate stuff. We've got to be careful. Yeah, but the local registry office, it's all over the province. So if she goes into the local, they can come.
They might have an idea, they might have some maps.
Yeah, there should be a way of doing it, that you can call it up, and there should be an overall plan showing where the parcels.
Well, that's what we thought we could hopefully find, was a map, showing the overall layout of the parcels, but so far, I couldn't find anything using a Google search, and
Is this cemetery associated with the specific church?
probably, but it's associated with the Oxdrift, excuse me.
And do we know what religion Richardson was?
She might, I don't know.
Because the Richardsons that I know in this community were Society of Friends, who have excellent records.
Right. What she's, I think, hoping to do is to prove that the cemetery was on his part of this land, and things like that. I think she knows when he died, she knows where he's buried.
Does she have a will?
There might be. And if it deeds the land
Yes.
to the cemetery or something like that, but
Yes.
What about the census? Wouldn't it have an
Sorry?
address? The census, wouldn't it have an address?
census, I doubt it'll have an address for there, but maybe that's where she got concession 1, lot 3 from, even that part I don't know. I mean, this isn't my line, this is a submitted entry here.
But I'm just thinking, we know he's there in 1901, that the census would have some kind of address.
It's quite possible, but that won't help us get into the parcels. That's our problem, is that crossover between the parcels and the other than if each registry office has a master plan somehow.
And usually there's a sequence to them. It usually you can sort of figure out, you do a couple here and there and figure out, okay, if that's there, I'm not close.
Right.
Oh, here I'm getting closer, whoops, went too far.
But the thing is, when you get into the parcels, it didn't really say lot and concession either, though. It says parcel number, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there should be even municipality might have some sort of map or.
Google Maps.
Bob, any idea why they complexified this? That's my word, complexifying. Because now you have to play Marco Polo to find it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea is now you just have to confirm you're on the land of the previous owner, and then you don't have to research it all the way back to
Yeah, you used to
Adam.
have to research a chain of title going back 40 years that you owned the property. And that's why they used to say every 40 years you should re-register your property. That way if somebody did anything sneaky in the meantime, it would be discovered. But now you guarantee title, and so you don't have to go back. So that's why they can get rid of the books and all that. But the problem is proving errors and things like that becomes problematical.
If the parcels don't say the lot in concession, how do they say where, like, how do you know where they are?
And
Like,
that's the
even if-
problem.
Well, even if you found the person's name and it said parcel 27, how would you know where that was?
Again, I'm assuming there must be a master map or something
Yeah.
somewhere. That's the biggest problem. Where is the master stuff? Other than hopefully not having to drive to Canora to get it.
There's a place for Ontario property surveys. And again, if you could hit one even in the area, might give you enough information And they put up a blurry one. Is this the right property? But sometimes the blurry one's enough to tell you what you need to know.
Whether it's what lot and concession or
Yeah. And sometimes
names are on it or whatever.
sometimes your municipal tax information will show, you know, your concession 5, part lot, whatever, now RP, whatever, and registered plan, whatever, lot 5. But in the first part of it, it tells you lot and concession. Now, I don't know that area, so I don't know how that was laid out to begin with.
I'm presuming that all these lots and concessions that are no longer called lots and concessions all touch some kind of road or road allowance. And if there were local history books or other newspaper things or something that might have mentioned, so the road that the person lived on or something that might help. You know, sometimes, you know, not everybody goes by lot and concession if they're not being used. They might say, you know, Stevenson's Road down at the end or something, and maybe that would help.
Corner of Boston and
Yeah,
Stevens.
it's like, so, like if there are newspapers or the reason I asked about if it's an agricultural area, I was thinking of the Women's Institute. If there was a Women's Institute, they often had little tidbits and things. They would keep scrapbooks. And
if she knows the current municipal address, like I know for some things, like that's how I search a lot of this stuff, just by municipal address. I can call up the municipal address and that would give me this information.
Is there a land registry office up there?
There is in Canora.
Because I got lots from my family from the land registry, not from that area, but when she printed me off, it's about this big of a firm, and she has all the lots and concessions. So I don't know.
Well, she looks like she's going to have to either contact them or maybe even the local library up there or something like that.
Or their city hall planning department?
Yeah.
They'll probably refer right to the registry office since there is one up there.
You know, around here, the first settlers had creeks and hills named after them, like Richardson's Lookout, that name, is on Road 9, going up by Elizabethville, Durham Road 9.
Break Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's,
Might come up.
like I say, she actually has the lot and concession, but it's a matter of changing it to be able to go through the land records, I think.
And it might have changed a few times over the years.
Normally, you can use this just because it's all lot and concessions usually still, and it's not a problem. This one, not so much.
Sometimes, not to break up the meeting now, but sometimes if somebody wants to see what I can access, I don't mind.
Okay.
All I need is an internet connection.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And officially, I can't do it for this purpose, but if somebody asks me, could you look up my house? Because I'm curious, I can look up your house.
Okay, we did suggest maybe checking the Archives of Ontario, but their Research Guide 31 says abstract indexes are not available on microfilm at the Archives of Ontario. The records are held by, listed under Reigning River District in Inventory 61. So that's another way to double check it. And the other thought we came up with was to check the Ontario Land Records Index microfiche, which lists the original owners for each lot and concession. If they were first in the area, it might at least give his original lot and concession up there. If it happens to match to the cemetery lot and concession, then she's a little better off, but it still won't change it into the other.
A lot of municipalities put out books, you know, with a list of like the mayor's name and all, who has what job and what phone numbers to call and stuff like that. And they've been doing it for many, many years. And I, about 30 years ago, bought one that was for this area, and in the back it had all the maps of all the counties and things like that, but it had a lot of municipal addresses in it. And then at the end of the year, they just throw them out and get a new one. So if some of those were saved by a local repository, they might have the person's address in it.
Okay.
So,
Good idea. John? Oh, sorry, John.
There's one up Canadian region in Oxford, and maybe some local older people would know some of these secret ways that they look after their property preservation.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if they can find what the new numbers are, that would, even on the property next to it or something like that, or like you say, then you narrow down the search. Okay, thank you. Deb, you want to say something? No? Or, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I don't know whether it would work for this, but when I went to a land registry office when my dad lived, they were able to pull up a lot in concession and tell me everybody that lived on that lot in concession back to 1806, right to present day.
Right.
So I don't know if they have.
Well, that's what normally this other website will pull up for you, is the abstract index books, which actually does list is the list of owners. But for some reason, it's been changed for this district. Now, whether or not they'll all eventually change or not, I don't know. Or whether it's just because these are more recent records and they just started with that and kept going. I'm not sure. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to give her an exact answer on that one. We'll move on to brick wall number 2. David Greer, born in 1833 and died 1875 in Haldimand Township, Northumberland County. He married Mary Ann Smith, born 1836. But by 1877, Mary Ann's been widowed and remarried to George Ashe, who was born in Coburg in 1811. Mary Ann was also born in Coburg, from our research. Their oldest child was Sarah Jane Greer, born in 1854. I believe she found a record that she was born in Durham, Peterborough County, but she can no longer find a reference to it, and I was unable to find anything mentioning that as well. She says she's looked everywhere and hasn't been able to find any reference to David Greer in the Peterborough area or where he may have lived before coming to the area. Nothing in Durham Township or even Durham Street in the city of Peterborough. Family lore says the family came from Cork, Ireland, but records say he was born in Ontario, so it must be another generation back for the Irish connection, if he was in the area. Okay, he only appears in the 1871 census that they can be confirmed in, even though he should have been in the 1861 census as well. His daughter, Clarissa Louisa, was born in 1862 in Hamilton Township area, and his son, Johnson Henry Greer, was born in Fenella, Haldimand Township, Northumberland County, in 1856. So it looks, after the first daughter was born, he did stay in the general area because Haldimand Township and Hamilton Township are side by side. We could not locate a marriage record for David Greer and Mary Ann Smith. Must have been around 1853 in the Newcastle district, but he's not in the records there of the Newcastle district records or the Coburn district marriage records. So if he married in the area, there's no record of it. Now, that's not to say all the records are in those two district marriage books. So it is possible, especially if he was married in the Anglican Church, a lot of those records didn't make it into the district marriage registers. Probably should check the Coburg church records just to ensure that everything has been checked there, because that would be one of the most logical places if he married in the area. We did find a David Greer, born about 1831 in Scotland, residing in Hamilton Township, belonging to the Free Church. However, the 1871 census says he was of Irish origin, which ties in with her County Cork idea, and he belonged to the Wesleyan Methodist Church. I could only find one baptism for their youngest daughter in 1870, so he either switched over to the Wesleyan Methodist Church later on, or had them baptized elsewhere, or didn't have them baptized at all. So, I can't remember, do I have, no? That's all we could find for this person too. We got some fun ones this time. He doesn't seem to be in the 1861 census, but he should be. And I tried several variations, took out the last name even, and tried working with the first names, took out the first names, tried working with the last name. Could not come up with anything in that area for him.
What about his wife's?
Sorry?
What about his wife?
Well, the whole family. I couldn't find anything on any of the family members. So they either got missed in the census, or maybe they made a quick trip to the States and then right back again. I don't know. But he's not readily, he's doing a good job of hiding, we'll say, in 1861. And he should have been there because kids on either side were born in that area. Again, 1851, that's all we can find, but this David Greer is supposedly born in Ontario. So, this one born in Scotland doesn't ring a bell. The religion's wrong, the birthplace is wrong from what the other records show.
What about the age, or was there any indication of the age?
Yeah, the 71 census matched the 1833 age.
So the 1851 might be a different person?
It could be. I mean, the age isn't bad. That's the one thing. The age and the location are good, but the birthplace and religion are not that good. But it's, you know, how...
Well, if he married, perhaps he changed his religion?
Entirely possible, yes. He could have taken on the wife's religion.
There was a lot of toing and froing between Ireland and Scotland. I have one family where there's two brothers, about 5 years apart, and one is, right now, is born in Ireland, and one born in Scotland. At first I thought they were smoking 20 cigarettes, but I remember being is correct that the father and the whole family had moved for work and moved back again.
But the thing is, most of the other records say he's born in Ontario. His kids, some of his kids' death records state he's born in Ontario. His 1871 census says he's born in Ontario. This is why we were hoping to find him in 61 to double up on that. But
Steve, did you have a slide going back to the hamlet or village of Durham? I think in the early slide, was that his wife?
No, this is family number 2. Different family.
Well, I thought it started out with some Durham and looking at.
No, we're still kind of. Well, this is I guess south of Peterborough now, but Durham was the previous.
Okay.
No, hang on. Sorry, what am I thinking? You're right. The daughter supposedly was born in Durham.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get them all confused.
And all I know about Durham is that they've got a fantastic Catholic church there. It's a Catholic region. That's where the Leahys, the musical family, are from. They have a lot of farms around there. But and Durham Street, I don't think it has anything to do with, in Peterborough, in East City, I don't think it has anything to do with the town of Durham.
No, just similar name it has. Yeah. But yes, the eldest daughter was supposedly born in Durham, but she can't find that reference now, so it's one thing. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's a little off topic, but is the Greer name current?
Sorry?
Is the Greer name the current surname of the person looking?
It's not the surname of the person looking.
Are there current Greers?
I don't know because this was just submitted to me, so
okay.
I don't know exactly.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Working with David Greer.
Yeah. Was there another one?
There's also in Peterborough the Trent Valley Archives, and they have a lot of local documents and things. So, like, of course, there's the regular city archives, But the Trent Valley Archives has a collection beyond just Peterborough, so that might be a place to inquire.
That's with Trent University, or is that something different again? That's the other one again.
It's
genealogical
organization.
kind of thing? Yeah, okay. That's the one that was fighting with the OJS.
That's right, yeah, I think they're getting along now.
And they're very helpful.
Okay.
Very helpful if you don't know what you're looking for, you know.
And if you make an appointment or submit the question, they get prepared.
Oh, right, okay. That sounds good.
So did they,
Trent Valley Archives.
In Peterborough?
Yes.
Yeah, they're not far from Trent University, in an old school up there near the zoo.
Near the zoo.
Yeah.
And the library also has a genealogy section with a lot of old records.
Yes, I think the Kawartha group has their collection in one. Maybe the Dilla Foss Library, or maybe they moved it. I'm not sure. It was in one and they moved it.
I don't remember.
And then there's another group called Canora.
There's a lot of groups up in the Peterborough area, so hopefully you can get help from one or the other, yes.
K-A-R-A.
Well, another thing that occurs to me is that if you can't find anything like right in Peterborough, but you do find things sort of south and east of there, what about those newspaper records that are online, the same collection that the Bowmanville Statesman is in? If you look up, I can't remember the name of the website.
Our Ontario, is it?
Is it on Our Ontario?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
I know, but at any rate, there's a lot of newspapers going back further than that are online. I know the Bowmanville and Orono ones go back, I think, to the late 1930s. There's some papers, and a lot of those papers had interesting, like, little columns about towns that were outside, quite a ways from like Bowmanville or Orono, like Pontypool and places like that, and so that there might be, if they can't find anything in Hamilton Township, it's not that far over, to the next one over, and it's quite likely, it's quite possible there might be something about them in the paper.
That's true too.
So it's worth a
especially
check.
if he died in a horrible death or something, you might get a nice write-up or something.
Yeah.
But he did die young at 1875, so he was only in his 40s when he died.
Manders has a historical group on Facebook, I noticed, and that's the area, sort of.
Okay, well,
I was going to say too, that his first wife died young, maybe she was up in one of the cemeteries.
no, actually, she remarried.
She married him.
She survived him and remarried, and they had at least one more child after that. I can't think of his name, but it was on. It was a couple of years after his dying. I mean, I think his death is mostly from the tombstone that's no longer available. So, lots of them.
One other point there, on the first record there, in a boarding house. Remember the census takers at the door, who answered the door, and how well did they know it?
And that's the thing too, yeah.
Yeah, it could have been, oh yeah, he talks funny, he has Scotch or Irish.
He's
Could be German.
There you go.
Yeah,
So there is that possibility, but there's no way, because he's not with his parents or anything like that, there's no way of knowing if it's...
But that makes it even more likely that he wasn't the respondent, that he wasn't the giver of the information.
Very true. It could be somebody just made up the information for him.
Yeah.
Now he's about 25 years old, and and as you say, he talks funny, so he must be Scotch.
Yeah.
Or Scottish.
Yeah, I should say.
Is this the time period in which some of the churches weren't allowed to marry people, or like if he's getting married, would his records possibly be in with Anglican records?
Well, they quite possibly. And of course, the thing with the Anglican records is they weren't forced to submit like all the other churches were. The Anglican and the Roman Catholics, and I believe the Friends, were not required to submit their records to the district county marriage register, whereas all the rest of the churches were. So that's why you can't find the Anglican records in these district marriage registers.
But they might be in the Anglican
But
archives.
they could be there, and that's why I would, if I were them, I would go to the Coburg Library. I believe they've got your early Coburg church records there on microfilm.
For all
So does Peterborough.
Anglican Church.
Anglican,
Diocese,
the Anglican.
town in Toronto, they have a diocese.
Well, I know the Kawartha group was able to get a copy of the microfilm of the records. So the Kawartha group has them, and I believe Coburg got a copy of the Coburg record for the Coburg Library. So there even a couple of closer places than going to Toronto, depending where you live. But yes, for the marriage, that's one of the first steps I would do, is check out Coburg Anglican Church.
Well, it doesn't sound like perhaps this fellow owned a farm or anything, because otherwise it wouldn't be that tricky to find some information about him. You could look on, for instance, those county maps where they had written all the farmers' names. So perhaps if he's living in a boarding house, he lives in town and...
Yeah, well, I can't remember what his occupation was in 1871. That I don't remember off the top of my head. But you're right, if he didn't own land, then that would complicate matters even more. Otherwise, you could try to do something with that, just to see when he purchased it, to see if it says where he came from to get that land. Sometimes you can get lucky in the records, and it'll tell you where they're living as they're purchasing the next lot in the next township over or something.
Is this area, well, at Hamilton Township, do they have the assessment rolls? They go
Yes.
back before that.
Yes, they should be part of the Newcastle District Census and Assessment Rolls, yes.
The reason I mention that is you don't have to have land, you don't have to
No.
own the land, you just have to have a job on some land.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. That might tell her when they got to the area, if nothing else.
Because that's how we found Dan's ancestors. They didn't own any land, but they got in these, they still had to pay taxes.
Okay, no, that's a good point. We'll mention that. Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 3 here. Another fun one. Every one that was submitted is a problem.
I wonder why that is.
I wonder if it's worthwhile. But this is a challenging one. Robert Eastman married Florence Gibson in Bowmanville in 1906. Supper took place at the home of George Barton, where Robert had been living in the census of 1891. George was married to Robert's sister, quote unquote, Emily. Robert and his siblings are the children of William Frederick Eastman and Abigail Chisnell. They were married in Brantford in 1867, 1881. 5 children are listed in the family, the youngest being Charles, born January 1881. Robert's not listed with them. And in 1891, Robert is with Emily and her new husband, George Barton. But by 1901, he's stated to have the same birth date as Charles.
Middle name?
And he's living with the family. Now, Charles's birth record is on Family Search. No sign of one for Robert.
Was that Robert Charles?
Or Charles Robert?
No, because in the, was it 1901? Yeah, 1901 census, both are listed.
Oh.
So that's how they know, because there's the same birth date for both of them. That's where the puzzle starts. That's why the twin part. They have the same birth date, supposedly. But he's not with the family when he's a newborn, and he is with the sister in 1891, but she'd only be about 12 years old when he was born, so he's not likely her child. Robert's sister Emily would only be about 12 years old at the time, so she's not likely his father, and she's the only girl in the family. That come up with lots of scenarios. An adopted child, or were two twins too much to handle, and one was loaned out. They used to do that in the old days. And because he's residing with Emily and her husband George Barton in 1891, maybe he came from the Barton side of the family and was adopted from there.
That's pretty coincidence having exactly the same birthday.
Yeah, well, I mean, or did the census taker get lazy and just write it in? But why? Like, if he was a twin, theoretically, you would have thought both boys would have been registered, unless somebody was looking at the sheet and skipped over one or something when they put it in. But Charles's record is right there for everyone to see.
And they, going over the records, they saw, oh, I've already done that, never
Yeah,
noticed.
same
it was a
date,
twin.
well done, yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible. And unless they can find a baptismal record or something like that, proving that there was two kids baptized at the same time, it's still kind of up in the air.
There's only the once that there ever, only one record has both of them on it?
Yes, the I believe the 1901 census. 1891, he's with George and Emily Barton, and Emily was his sister. But, and as you saw at the very start of it, he was married at George's house as well, in, I think it was Bowmanville. So he was married in the Barton household, so he definitely seemed to have a connection to that Emily, or to George, one or the other. He seems to, they seem to stay together a fair bit. Our best thing was DNA testing. If there is descendants, I would get him tested. Y-DNA will let you know if he's definitely down the male side line or not. And autosomal will at least tell you if he's related to one of the other. And I believe she did say that there is a possibility of getting a DNA test. I think they did have some kids, so she's hoping that's the only plan she's come up with as well. So unless, like I say, there's a baptismal record out there, which would be down in Brant County. Brant, I think it's right? And Brant County, anyways. If they could stumble across that, then they'd be okay too. But any other suggestions for her? That's a puzzler, because who gives away a one-year-old baby or something like that, you know?
I have an instance in my family. My great-grandmother's sister had a daughter, and first of all, the great-grandmother's sister was very difficult to find because her husband was in Toronto getting married and saying he was a widower, but I couldn't find any record that she was dead. And one night when I had nothing else to do, I found her on a list of about 700 people operating a bookstore in San Francisco. And her daughter had an uncommon name. So I was able to find that the daughter with the uncommon name was crossing the border and visiting her mother, while at the same time as the father was living with his old second wife. But anyway, the daughter had twins. And I didn't find this out until I got in touch with a descendant. But she had twins when she was visiting her mother in the States, and she wasn't meant to have twins so early, but they came early. The father, because he was so cheap, only registered one of the twins because the other was sickly. So then, grandmother decided that she would help them out because they had a lot of difficulties. So grandmother, my great-grandmother's sister, she kept the healthy twin, and the mother took her sickly twin back to Toronto. So the sickly twin was raised in Toronto as the only child, and grandmother raised the first twin. Believe it or not, the sickly twin outlived the other one. But let me tell you, this was not an easy pursuit.
That's not.
The breast milk.
That's quite a removal.
You want to tell our
It is a very big removal. But, and the other thing, I know a family where there were two identical men, they were identical twins themselves. And one had about 6 kids and the other had none. And when the guy with the 6 kids had the last one, he and his wife chose to give that child to the brother that had no children. So she was raised as an only child, but it was always no one within the family. So the fathers, of course, were identical twins, the families were all together. So she grew up initially thinking these kids were her cousins, but they weren't actually siblings. So some people do some odd things with the twins that you didn't expect.
It is entirely possible, and hopefully they'll come up with some sort of, and did you?
Well, even when they're not twins, if there's some kind of family crisis, children often are given to relatives, or Dan has a situation of a mother who died and left a father who was a forester, with 3 children, and his mother brought up one, and his brother and sister-in-law brought up one, and the other one was old enough, I guess, to stay at home by himself all day. So
I've heard the same thing, like in our family, I know there was one where the oldest sister was given to cousins, and everybody knew it, some didn't. But everybody knew it. It was funny, I found out before my mom did. My mom was really quite annoyed that she never figured it out. But everybody else, it was sort of an open secret, but nobody talked about it. They were afraid she would blab it, so they never told her. But I figured it out. But yeah, so they'd give it. And then in not the same family, but a similar family, was a Marion. The husband, he had 2 brothers with the same name, and they had, one was born, the mother was sick and quite taxed at the time, so they gave him away, and then they had another baby, a year or so later, I don't know what the time frame was, and the mother was still lamenting the loss, giving away of the first one, so she named the second one after the first. Then they ended up getting back the first one. So they had 2, like it was like Bob Newhart's show. Their brother Daryl, other brother Daryl. Yeah. But that's how it, and you can see like it makes sense when you, and it handled the situation. It can really mess up.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, there's quite a good article that I have at home about double naming, especially back in, we'll say, the 1500s, 1600s kind of thing. It was actually quite common in case one died, because they wanted to continue the father's name on, and they made sure if the one was a little bit sick or something, or maybe even multiple else, they named 2 of them John or Robert or whatever, just to make sure one of the names would continue. And I have the will at home saying my eldest son John and my youngest son John.
And then the other thing you got to watch for is people changing their names informally. My grandmother's uncles all seemed to do it. They were all known by a different name, and not nicknames, but just completely different names than what they were officially. I asked my grandmother why, and she said because that's the way it was always. Somehow they got given this other name, and it's stuck.
John was always Jack. You call it John Jack.
Well, no, this was more like Ed was Norm.
Maybe it's
like there was totally.
Maybe it's like a confirmation name.
Yeah, it was totally bizarre. And she said they picked up the different names when they were kids, and they stuck to it, and no rhyme or reason to it. It just.
My father-in-law went by Heinz for 50 years. We only learned a couple of years ago how he actually got the nickname. And we had all kinds of theories going, and nobody would ever tell us. And we finally learned, and it was just a stupid reason, but pretty much, apparently they give out 3 buttons or something with Heinz on it. And I guess he used to put them in his hat. And all all his brothers and sisters started calling him Heinz, because that's what the hat said. It stuck.
Yep.
I'm wondering if this is one of those cases where your advice at the beginning about widening your search to different lines of the family might pan out. Because if there are different, if you can find like sisters and brothers or cousins, or it might be that somebody has inherited some records that will have that information.
That's true too, yes.
So sometimes like
Even
a Bible or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I say, if they can get into, if they can find the baptismal record for Charles, if they're real lucky, Robert's name will be next to it. Otherwise, if Robert is not listed with Charles in a baptismal record, then the odds are that he was adopted from some direction. Because they can screw up once, but they're not liable to screw up in two different locations on not putting the twins in. So that would be the thing, plus DNA. That if they can get their hands on that, should open some doors there, especially Y DNA for the male line. They don't know if that's correct or not. Okay, now I think. Yep. Now, who brought in a problem we can play with? Throw out suggestions there. Did anyone bring in a problem?
I didn't bring anything, but I'm trying to find information on William Lenore, who was a merchant in St. John, Quebec, in I believe 1728.
Sorry, St.
Armand, Quebec.
St. Armand?
That's in
Okay.
Missisquoi,
or however you
right,
pronounce
yeah.
it. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it, but I do recognize the name.
Yeah, so because several of us have had our DNA done, and we all shared DNA too. Lenore lived in Friedrichsburg, which is just north of there, and I can't find, like I have all the 5 children, because we all connect by DNA, and someone on Family Search had this William Lenore as the father, but I can't find any census or anything listing any of those children.
Yeah, the time period is not the greatest for the eastern townships of Quebec, is it? What you might want to work with, and actually there's right on the OGS newsletter that came out, I think today or yesterday or something, they had a wish list that Ancestry, they have been publishing a lot of the indexes to the lawyers' records. I can't remember the proper terminology, but it's lawyers' records in Quebec. They've been putting the wish list out that they'll start putting the actual records up to go with the index.
Because I tried to look at notary records.
That's it, the notary, yeah.
And I just looked at, before I came here, all the churches that are listed in St. Armand. There's no more, or in any of them, there's one Lamoureux, but...
Certainly, it sounds like you've got a French name there, when a lot of that area was English.
Well,
I mean, it was mixed, but
yeah.
there was certainly a lot of people.
Because we do share DNA to the Lamoureux family, and we're thinking, because in James Lamoureux, who just lived across the border in Vermont, he had a son, William, it's listed in his will, who took off and they couldn't find him, they think he went to Canada. But several of his children shortened the name to Lenore. So that's why we're thinking that he's actually the son of James, because we share DNA to
that Rose as well.
But I can't find who listed with him. There's lots of records on his one son, John Edward Lenore, who lived in Friedrichsburg, because he married his several children, so they're all listed in the Anglican Church there, very close to us. And all the other children was London, Ontario. But I think, I nightmare for a lot of people too.
Almost going to have to track all the different ones down, and A, DNA testing, B, look for wills and land records, but it's certainly sounds like you're on the right track if you have the possibility of a name change and everything else
Yeah,
like
I
that.
just need to get on paper that only connection to others. All the children connect by DNA.
The notary records will hopefully give you some answers once, a lot more than, I don't think all the indexes are up there yet at Ancestry, so, because I'm still waiting, I'm actually in the same area you are, as Frelighsburg and Missisquoi and Durham counties, and I'm waiting for a few wills out of there, or other records, and so far no luck. But I do believe there are some available, it's just they're not out there. So I have actually gone down to the local Sherbrooke archives back in 1982 and did research in there, and they had a lot of good records there, but you need the time to be there. And it helps to speak French because they don't want to speak English too.
So take someone French with you.
Yes, that would help too. One or the other, because I had to muddle along with whatever I could say, and once in a while they'd throw a little bone my way and say, "Oh, you mean this?" And then you had to leave for lunch too, because they shut down for an hour, and then you come back after lunch and start up again. It was interesting, quite a trip. And
I didn't bring a problem, but I wanted to mention something that some people sometimes forget to look someplace. Dan has been visiting thrift shops and secondhand stores quite a bit lately, likes to browse, and he's found quite a few documents, interesting, I don't know, little pamphlets and books, sometimes there are local things that have been put out for celebrations, or something that someone has written about their farm, or I don't know, just small things that maybe they don't have enough circulation that they've got picked up by an archives, but they've been in people's attics, and now once those people die and their relatives are cleaning out the house, they don't like to throw these things away, so they may donate them, like to the Salvation Army, or in Bowmanville they have this store called Bibles for Missions. They have a great big book section, and there's all kinds of things you just never know. So if you're in the area where you're trying to find a person, you might look in the local secondhand stores in their book section, and if you do find something, it's probably really cheap. So.
And keep an eye open for yearbooks for this area too, because we're still trying to build up our collection for that. Dan found a whole bunch just the other day for us. The cheaper the better, of course. Yeah. And we do have a list on our website of what we do own, so we do not want to duplicate anything unless it's real cheap.
But sometimes, you might go to the library in the town, and they might not have that, but the secondhand store might have it.
The other thing is pictures, because people will save the frame. Sometimes there's still a picture.
Yeah. I picked up one, actually in Orono. It was, I guess, the industrial commissioner for Whitby back in 1958 had made a booklet up to try to encourage industry to come to Whitby. A lot of photos, illustrations, little discussions about, or descriptions of all the industries that were there and why somebody should come to the Whitby area. And so I guess I found the photos in particular interesting, the old photos.
Thanks.
So my mom's family is all from Leeds County.
Leeds County, okay.
Rockville is where their OGS thing is, and it's a bit of a drive.
Yes.
And I've asked if they have a professional who can do some researching, and they don't in the area.
No, I don't even think there's an active OGS branch down there.
There is? Yeah, they still in
Oh, Leeds Greenville, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's...
Sorry, but there's
very few members, but they do have a really good library. So my question is there a professional in this area that would do research in another county?
We don't really have much of a list of people at the moment.
Okay.
What we do is I refer them to the list that's on the Archives of Ontario website. They have, I think, 2 lists on there, various researchers who will do research in Ontario for you.
Okay.
It might be just out of the archives rather than driving down to the location, but if it's something that could be done from the archives too.
So I have several questions. So the churches of the people, my relatives, they would be United Church now, but Methodist, Episcopal Methodist. I went to Toronto downtown and looking for stuff, and they weren't really helpful. I don't know if I needed to. She didn't, I don't think when she realized it was east of Gananoque, she said, oh, well, we don't carry this stuff. But that's where I was referred to. So I don't know, how does one research church?
I would do a Google search and just see which diocese covers the leads in the Grenville area.
And you find it, so I think it's the Ottawa, that one. But
Okay.
so I don't have to been up there.
Yeah.
Right?
Another long drive, yeah.
Yeah. Do you write? Is this how people go
I
about
think with United Church, it used to be conferences, so you'd find a conference that had the records.
Yeah, but I'm looking for records in 1830 to 18...
You never know what the different churches have in.
But she wanted me to know the specific church, no, I didn't have that information.
That's
Yeah,
part of the
that's the
problem.
problem.
That's what you want.
Yeah, yeah,
You want to know.
Yeah.
There would be
Ottawa?
conference records that would tell you what churches existed.
Yeah, I think I've gone home, that's what I've been trying to put together myself.
Might be Ottawa.
Many marriages with the names of ministers.
Yes, if you have any of the records of the family, it might be able to track it down.
Oh, what,
Church
minister
they're
before
ministering.
marriage?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I found a few marriages online.
You might be able to find something through the ministers for people.
Right, but I think that there were circuit ministers too.
And some of them could be, especially Wesleyan
They would
Methodist.
still be in the same area.
Sorry?
They would be in the same area for a certain period of time.
Same area as in Captain Leeds County or
Yeah.
Captain
Yeah, they would be on a circuit, which would be a
Yeah.
limited area.
Yes. So these are just kind of some of my records, well, for example, so my great-grandfather married Barbara Thompson, I know that, by the census she was born in Ireland. They were married in 1837. I think my grandfather came over around 1830s. And so I'm assuming they were married here in Canada. And her husband died in 1887, and she didn't die in 1895, and her name's not on the tombstone. So it's kind of, I don't know who this Thompson family is. That's where I stop with her. So,
Well, check the district marriage register for that area, because 1837 just might be in it.
okay.
I don't know if that's Eastern District?
Well,
I'm not sure
yeah,
which name,
for
I'd
the
have
last
to check
7 years of her life, she
which
might
district.
yeah.
But there are district marriage registers, you might get lucky if they were Wesleyan Methodist to start with.
What about the records from the Christian, is it the Guardian?
There are some books with some of those, yes, the Christian Guardian.
Is that the name of
et cetera, et cetera.
the Methodist paper, Christian, the churches put out their own
Yeah,
newspapers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know we have some of those in our collection
So that
upstairs.
was my question. Do you have for your library, a listing of all your books?
Not
Sorry.
nothing to work with, no. But
Okay.
there's a list put in every year, and et cetera, but we're hoping in the long run, OGS is going to build a website, or get a program and build a website to put all our holdings on. When we had them in the Whitney Public Library, they were available and accessible through their catalog. But
Right.
now that they're in our collection upstairs, we don't have a running catalog for them.
But they're organized,
But they
so
are-
you should be
They
able
are
to find them.
They're all together. They're receiving.
This is a question that shows my ignorance about this. You're referring to county marriage registry.
Right?
Now, when did they come into effect? And I thought there wasn't any central registry of marriage, not marriage, it's birth.
Well,
The marriage records.
They
until
started-
the 1870s.
you're correct about that, but they were required, certain churches were required by law to submit marriage records into a central location. Originally, they were set up by district, so Newcastle district, which ran from the edge of Oshawa all the way over to Hastings, I think it was, or the Ontario, well, we're part of the home district, which included from York all the way to the end of Whitby kind of thing. So in the early days, about 1830s, they started to 1850, most of them quit around 1857 or so. They were supposed to run a little longer than that, I think, but 1857, 1858, around there. And that's the district marriage registers. And then they were broken down into smaller areas, although by then there was probably a lot more marriages happening in each area, so probably equal number of marriages. That's when they turned into the county marriage registers. They generally run from 1858 to 1869. Then 1869 is when civil registration began, theoretically, although of course some are missed, then the changeover, and then Ontario-wide registration.
Are those registries available in the Ontario Archives?
They're available in the Ontario Archives. We have transcriptions of a lot of them up in our room up there. Some of them are on Ancestry. So depending on what area you're looking for. Certainly we have the home district and the Newcastle district upstairs. And we've got several others too, because we've had a lot donated and we've purchased a couple as
So
well.
I'm just looking for marriages about 1870. They could have been in a county register somewhere
If it
rather
was
than the...
1869, then it might have just slipped under the wire and still in there. Whereas 1870, theoretically, that should be in the actual Ontario Registrar's office, along with the Ontario Vital Statistics.
If they were just run.
Well, I've got a funny one here. It's just sort of a fake one. And I'll give you a question and I'll give you the answer. Where would one find information on a Ukrainian language film filmed in this area? Somebody was researching, trying to figure out where some of the scenes were filmed, and it took them forever to figure it out. Just tonight, I was lulled to take a look at GM Topics from 1966, and it has a 3-page or 4-page spread here on this Ukrainian movie that was filmed. Like, who would ever think about it? There's photographs. One of the big things that drove everybody nuts, there was a scene in a movie where they're marching down the street and they're ambushed, and it took us forever to figure out where that was. It mentions right in here, filmed in Whitby. Was there scene shot anywhere else? Well, here's a shot of Alexander Park and 2 of the actors in Alexander Park. So my point is, you never know like a Ukrainian language movie filmed in the 1960s. Who would ever think of looking at GM Topics from January 1966? Yeah, like there's a 4-page, and the article mentions no tie-in whatsoever with GM. It's just sort of, it's a well-written, nice article, great photographs, shows it being done. All sorts, mentions the headquarters was in Oshawa, of the filming company. That mentions stuff being done in Clarington and Whitby. Now,
That movie is on the internet too, I've seen it.
Yeah, but the most unlikely thing that you could possibly.
I don't speak the language, but
Somewhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. Does GM Comics, is there an archive of these? What other gems are hidden in these?
I don't know personally, but that was my grandpa's, and my mother just gave it to me at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Out of the blue, and I thought I'd seen everything, but obviously I hadn't.
Yeah, well,
I will definitely ask.
And the funny thing was at the last meeting, she was showing some information. I walk up and I was talking about how this gentleman, nice gentleman, had given me information on my grandfather living in the Oshawa Armories. And I mentioned, she says, oh, what's his name? And she pointed down, and here's her book open at a photo of the nice gentleman who's her uncle.
And my mom knew that story too, about your grandparents.
Yeah, I looked all over the place to find out where my great-grandmother had died. The only clue I had, and I was told not to rely on it, was that she died in a government institution. So I'm thinking mental hospitals, and probably up Owen Sound area where some of them were from. She died at home in the Oshawa Armories. She was, my great-grandfather was a custodian and lived in the Oshawa Armories where the sergeant's mess is now. Like who would ever, so your remote sources, never presume. And never presume you won't find it.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Small world.
And interestingly enough, we had a gentleman trying to identify some pictures from GM just in December at our office. And apparently GM has closed down their archives. They don't have an archives anymore. So where all the books like that and everything else went? Good question.
After the recordings over, ask me some more.
Hang on to it, don't throw it out.
That's a newsletter. It's got his name and address on it. So
apparently the archives is gone, it used to.
But it will be a
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should take a little break, eh? Oh, sorry, I have a question at the back.
I may have a name for you to find the GM archives. I will try to bring it, or I'll get your information.
Okay, I'm not even sure we have the gentleman's name anymore, to be honest. I don't think he left it in our office upstairs.
I think I can get it. I have it on the tip of my tongue, but I can't spit it out.
Okay, well, thank you. Good to know.
I mean, next month, will be soon enough?
Yes, there's no rush.
And there's some things on the back table that Dan bought at the thrift store. If you want to see what he was.
Okay, so there's some examples on that side, and here Dan's. Everything on my left-hand side, your right-hand side. Okay, we'll just finish up here. There's not much more to go through, so we'll just finish this, and then we can do a little more chatting as we pack the chairs and stuff away. Nancy just wanted us to know that the latest issue of Families is now out there, so if you're an OGS member, you can get online and sign in and download your copy. Oh, she's even showing us where to download it from. So, if you haven't got your November issue yet, it's now out.
Well, that's good.
Upcoming meetings, we got the DNA Special Interest Group on Wednesday, January 15th. So that's a week from tomorrow. We'll be here in our room upstairs in the church. And we start at 7 p.m. Everyone's welcome. If you want, bring your problems and we'll do our best to give you some advice on that. Plus, we may watch a video or something like that, depending what's out there. There's been a few interesting changes with some of the DNA out there and some of the companies, so we'll be discussing some of those too. I think I went backwards again. Yep, there we go. We're back. Upcoming meetings. 4th of February will be Jennifer Waymark. talking about letters from the trenches. That's from the World War I, some of the letters that they have in their collection at the Oshawa Archives. 3rd of March will be Amy Barron and Susan, and I'm not even going to try, Susan Boland and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island. So we're going to hear about the reserve on Scugog Island. The 7th of April will be Nancy Trimble. What's next with your DNA matches? She's going to take us and talk us through, when you have your DNA matches, where you can go from there. And we'll do our 50-50 drawdown, if you're ready. Yep, she's counting, so I'll stall here in the meantime. I'll sing a song or something, okay? No? No? Smart lady. Did anyone else have any interesting news or anything that they want to share with us? Sheila's just getting organized there. There we go.
News advertising church.
LBS
Church. LBS Church on Church Street in the village of Pickering is having a lecture tomorrow evening on early genealogy, and I suspect they must be setting up family history site.
Oh, okay. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they have a meeting tomorrow night over in Ajax.
Can you repeat that into the microphone? Because probably people watching this later online.
Well, it's tomorrow night, so...
Oh, right. It won't work.
What is the meeting for?
But there's going to be a meeting at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints
7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock in Ajax, and their street is...
It's Tower of Ajax now, but it is Church Street South, which is in what was the village of Pickering.
Church Street South in what was the village of Pickering.
Yeah.
Okay. You can probably find it on, you can probably Google it if you wanted to find out more
So it's
about
south
it too.
of Kingston Road.
South of Kingston Road.
And it's north of the Florida one. And you don't turn off anymore to the village.
Sounds like it might be St. Francis de Sales Church, is it?
No.
Not that?
It's the, no, St. Francis de Sales has a new identification too.
Oh, okay.
Theater and
Yeah,
concerts.
we were there once.
But this is an actual Latter-day Saint church.
Oh,
But and I had thought of approaching them at some point last week, they were thought to set up a family history center, and it looks as if this is what may be happening. This is a lecture. I'll know more after I go tomorrow.
We'll get a full report next month.
Well, definitely.
Perfect.
Might make a good article for the newsletter.
I was going to say that, yeah, the newsletter.
So let's see what they establish. One meeting is not a,
Picture of mine, put it in the newsletter, and you can respond.
I haven't heard if there was a response to the picture, but we haven't seen Bea in a while. She was on holidays too, so
Oh, I see.
it could be, if there was anything, it might be still sitting in the file because she's not here tonight, so. I know Nancy did look through for any messages that needed to be responded to right away. If it wasn't an emergency, she left it for Bea. But it did get in there. Okay, Sheila.
All right, we have $15.50 for a prize today.
$15.50 going to the lucky person, and we will find out. As long as you got 2 copies, you're good.
Okay, the last 3 numbers are 519.
519.
You got it?
Got a new member now.
Well, that worked out nicely. Yes.
I'll draw next.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all gonna take turns, well, take turns now.
Come back now?
Yeah, because it probably won't happen again for a
Don't spend it all in one place, though.
Oh,
Maybe on lottery tickets, actually, yeah, you got a couple hours left to get some tickets for tonight, 70 million. There's our contact information, all the different addresses you can contact us with, or see our Facebook group, or our blog, or just plain our website. There's all the different things right there. And of course, you can get to us from the OGS website too, at ogs.on.ca. Next meeting, just a reminder, Letters from the Trenches here in the church, Tuesday, February 4th. Our office will be open on the 3rd and 4th Fridays of every month, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Debbie and I are usually here, and quite often there's others here as well. We have quite a crowd now. And you're all welcome to come, bring your problems, or just come to cruise through the different books we have, see what we have. We'll try and show you where to look. And there is a little bit of microfilm and everything else up there too. And that is the end. Thank you for coming. Safe journey home.
Oh, 10 minutes from driving.